We need people to get out of their arena and step into the battlefield.
We are the mirror of what we represent. This train is moving, jump on board. The more momentum we get coming into the election, then it's the next election, then it's local council elections, then it's the federal election.
It's not a ramping problem, it's an mRNA injury problem.
First of all, we didn't create the problem. How do we fix this? The Labor Party's gotten away with what they can because the Liberal Party's been weak, and I've had a gut feel and I'm tired of waiting for them to get their shit together. On the left, you believe you're the saviour. To be a saviour, you need victims. We have the most expensive power in the country while we have the highest concentration of uranium. We've got coal coming out of our backside in Australia. Like, we should be rolling around in money, and yet we are going backwards at a rate of knots. We are in a managed decline.
We found out recently for the inquiry that the Labor Party were told to not look into it until after the election. How
Why?
Scandalous is that?
Why?
We know why. Hey everyone, today I'm here with Carlos from One Nation. Carlos is leader of the Upper House, am I correct?
Yeah, leader of the Upper House and president of the party in South Australia.
So what has that been like for you so far, going through becoming part of One Nation and then going on the journey you have led to this moment?
Oh, it's been exciting. It's been challenging at times, but rewarding. Let's say when I sort of came to the party 5 years ago as a candidate, there was a lot of pushback. Not to the degree that Pauline has experienced over the years, but I can see now how she feels, where you finally feel like you've indicated and people are coming up and saying, we'll vote for you. And like I've got, the top on, I'd go out and people come up and, oh, you One Nation? Yeah, well, we're voting for you this time. We've had a gut full. And so there's a bit of indication now and knowing that we always knew in the party we're on the right path. But when you get people come and actually follow and say we're following, then that you're like, okay, we're now right. Let's go.
So South Australia is in a very peculiar situation. Like South Australia's always been kind of like a Labor kind of state, right? In terms of who's been in power.
Yeah.
Do you see a huge opportunity for One Nation to kind of break that mold, that uni-party mold, and go, you know what, we're here as a big player and we want to do South Australians?
Look, I think what's happened, and this is probably politics around the country, is that people have been sold on the perception they've only got two choices. Like when you go to a wedding and there's chicken or fish. But in actual fact, you can order something different, right? And it's okay to be adventurous, and you shouldn't put up with just the norms. So what we are trying to do, and I think we will achieve what we're trying to do, is give people an alternative to start with. Then we prove it by putting some runs on the board and then just continuously delivering. But it means that the people have to be willing to try something else. Don't accept the norm. Don't keep accepting the rubbish they dish out. I think Malinauskas today went out and announced, I don't know how many millions of dollars that he's going to spend. And it's just ironic that they always come out just before the election and dangle the carrots. And people have said to me, what's One Nation going to announce? What are you going to give us? And it's like, well, I'm just going to give you an alternative in the way the state's run. I'm going to give you an ability to be more self-reliant. I'm going to give you an ability to actually hit your straps, because I don't think we've actually even hit our straps in this state or the country for that matter.
Yep.
I think we need to take the shackles off and stop believing that these people are going to fix our problems when the majority of the problems are created by them. Yep. So that's what we're going to do.
And I guess that's kind of the point of turning point here, is we want to create a turning point in the state, a turning point in Australia, and go, you know what, your protest vote is more than just a protest vote.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why I asked to do an interview, because I want people to get to know you.
Yeah.
And get to know the party, because, we do have a big challenge ahead. The Premier, is charismatic, has got the looks, but not much substance behind the face.
Yeah.
Is what I'm kind of getting at. And I think, getting past him as a hurdle is going to be the challenge that One Nation needs to face.
Yeah.
How do you think you could, have a big impact on the Premier in terms of his lack of leadership and what he's been up to in the state? He promised to fix ramping. He's promised to make South Australia a better place, but it seems like all he's done is spent all our money. Yeah. Ramping hasn't gone away.
No.
And he seems to be taking all the credit for a previous government.
I think what has to happen is there has to be a fundamental change in getting the voter to understand that they actually have the power. So every 4 years, these people come down from the ivory tower and they tell you, A, what they've done, they've got to remind you because it was so good, right? So they're going to remind you and they spend a lot of money doing it, or they dangle the carrot, right? So as far as I'm concerned, they can shove that carrot where the sun don't shine. I want consistency, but I want the voter to stand up and say, sorry, we're not falling it for this time. We're not falling for your candidates knocking on my door, telling us about how good it is. The voter has to step up, right? You've got to take that power back, because once you take that power back, the voting bloc is a really powerful thing. That's how you get systemic change in the country. And by rights, I'd expect them to hold us, if we get elected, accountable. I'll hold all my candidates accountable. I'll hold all my work people that my business accountable. I'll hold myself accountable every day. The voter needs to do that. You get one shot every 4 years. Don't waste it, So time to really step up. And I don't want to say it's a protest vote. I want people to go out there and actually say, I'm putting my vote with One Nation because I'm not happy with what you guys are doing. And I want to give this guy a chance and this party a chance. And let's be honest, we're not new to the game. Pauline has been saying the same thing for 30 years. You want consistency. She's the most consistent person you have. And she's gone through a lot of rubbish to get to where she is. And she's still fighting hard every day. I mean, I've spent a fair bit of time with her. She runs rings around most people I know.
Yeah.
And so I think that is what we want to do. It's a movement from the people, but the people have to wake up and ignite and take charge. Take that vote back. You get it. We live in democracy. You get that vote, use it.
So, Pauline Hanson, you mentioned, she's been doing this for a while now, and immigration was always at the forefront of her policy in terms of the way she voiced things. And now we're seeing, I think Australia by capita is the greatest mass immigration country in the world in terms of numbers. What do you think that impact has had on Australia recently with the huge surge in immigration in this country? Do you think?
I think I'll tell you what I feel like. As an immigrant myself, parents came back here in 1977. I think the immigration that we have now is undoing the good work of the immigration of the past, right? We had a lot of people come here to help build the nation, and now some of the people that are coming here are undoing it. And it's really creating a lot of division in the community. I would say that this Prime Minister has been the most divisive Prime Minister we've ever had, that I can remember, okay? And, I'm 50, I went through a few. But I've never seen people so angry and so divided, and all while he's saying that we need social cohesion. Well, the thing you can do the most to make people get together is not get in the way and make sure that the people you're trying to put together want to be together. You got to bring people in here that actually love this country, love the flag, love what it represents. I mean, we're very laid back, right? It takes a lot to put us offside, but I've seen a lot of people now that are really angry because of the immigration that we have now, and it's not in the benefit of no one. It's not in the benefit of our youth that now can't buy a house. We have a generation of kids now that don't love this country because they're like, well, I can't have a piece of it. Why should I care? We need to undo those things. These are policies that are being put in place all on the guise of, we need to build the nation. Well, I'd argue we're just deconstructing the nation at the moment. So I don't think the immigration we've got now is working. No.
Yeah, you're kind of right, because I'll say this about immigration and being from a Greek background.
Yeah.
When the Greeks came here, it wasn't all, dandy.
No.
You had to go through a rite of passage. You had to handle, be called a few things.
Yeah.
I think now with the way wokeism and inclusivity has kind of softenized and made people scared to be a little bit cheeky, a bit of bullying towards immigrants, because it kind of checks you into the culture, and it makes the person who's trying to assimilate into this country go, oh, okay, I'm not following the culture, because an Aussie guy will let you know.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right? When you don't have a overarching strong identity, it gets filled with people that are going to be strong in their identity, and that is not good for the country.
No.
You need that overarching, what it means to be Australian, what it means to care about your nation, what it means to care about your fellow citizen. Because like I said, we're pretty laid back, but I think now people have gotten to the point where they've had a gutful.
Yeah.
And that's the shift we're seeing is the silent majority is now awaking and not becoming silent as much. So, yeah.
And a big problem as well is this is one benefit. The Greeks went through extreme genocide with the Ottoman Empire, the Islamic rule that happened, right? So when the Greeks came here, they, millions dead, millions displaced.
Yeah.
But we knew it wasn't the right thing to do to come to Australia and do a protest every day about it.
No, it
Even
wasn't.
though and to be fair, the Greek community, we talk about it, we educate,
Yeah.
but you don't see us taking over Sydney Harbour Bridge. You don't see us taking over the streets every day. And I think that's one bad thing the Palestinian movement have dealt with is they've been hijacked by communist groups, socialist groups. And the problem is the socialist groups, the communist groups, they've got one agenda. They want communism in Australia, which is getting close to it, right? So that actually takes away from the Palestinian movement. The Palestinian movement has been disturbed and hijacked now by a socialist. Like no moderate Australian's going to go and want to support Palestine.
No, it undoes, and it's not just the Palestinian movement. There's been a lot of movements. I would argue, like the LGBT community, that has been hijacked
by
now.
The communists as well, yeah.
And so I think there needs to be a divorce between the first three letters and the rest.
Yeah.
Because we don't have an issue. Everybody's got rights to be who they want to be in this country. But the way they carry on, you'd think that they're persecuted and treated badly. But it's just activism, and it gets in the way of unity because all it does, and this is the communist way, is divide and conquer.
Yeah.
It's very hard when people want to get together and unite and be passive. You can't control, right?
Yeah.
So this is why I think these activists are getting in there, whether they're whether they're protesting Palestine, whether they're protesting Venezuela. I'm South American, right? I've got some friends from Venezuela, and they are just shocked that we are out protesting to keep in a dictator, brutal dictator. That country should be one of the richest countries in the world, and it's a basket case. And we've got people in this country that would protest Palestine one day and then Venezuela the next.
Yeah.
Like it's just madness.
And it's because I'll tell you why. It's because the way these protesters, these activists work, it's not based on actual genuine humanitarian movements. It's based on what their leadership structure says.
Yeah.
So if the leadership structure says Palestine is a movement, then Palestine is a movement. And that's what happened in Iran, for example. In the 1970s, it was the leftists in Iran. They had a very free country.
I remember seeing it, yeah.
And then what happened was the leftists got too big for their boots and they wanted more. So then this Islamic extremist regime said, hey, we'll give you socialism under the Islamic rule. And the girls and the guys are like, okay, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
What happens? Massacres.
Yeah.
They had to flee their own countries. A lot of them were killed.
Yeah.
So this is the problem with socialism and communism. They come in with this, like, we're going to save this fantasy, we're going to save the country, but then they only rule by killing and death. And it's happened many, many times over human history.
Yeah.
The same story has played out.
Well, when these new communist leaders come in, they always say the same thing. Trust us this time because we know how to do communism or socialism or whatever better than the last guy. It doesn't work. It will never work.
Yeah.
Right? That's what people need to get through their head. And if we continue down this path, it's a slow march. It doesn't happen in 1 or 2 generations. It happens over generations. But I've noticed the freedoms I had when I was younger compared to now. And it's the slow boil of the frog, right? It's exactly the same thing. So people need to work out. But the lucky thing is that we live, on a planet where you see a lot of countries that have already gone through this. My country, Argentina, was
from Argentina, are you?
So I'm originally from Argentina. I came here when I was 2 years old, but I have a lot of family over there. So we communicate and I follow a little bit what goes on. And you see the country, after the Second World War, it was on par with Australia. And then you see what 80 years of socialism and that rubbish has done to that country. Now they have a fantastic president in Javier Milei, but it got so bad. 40% unemployment, inflation at 200%. I mean, we lose our mind when it gets to 7 or 8. Imagine 200%. It's just a killer. So it's gone so bad. Now they've got him in there and he's done some pretty good things. He's got a lot of work ahead of him, pushing back on a lot of things. Because what a lot of people don't realise is socialism isn't that everybody's equal. It's that there's a group of people that tell everybody else to be equal, right? And they take away. And there's always... like in Argentina, even when everything was really bad, there were still really, really rich people. So I don't think it's in the benefit of this country to go down that path. I think it's in the benefit of us to stay, more open for business, smaller government, the onus back on the individual. You want the rights, well, you have to take the responsibility of what you're doing as a person. And then do things that not only benefit yourself, but your community, your state, your country.
Yeah.
Outward. And everybody does that, we all lift.
Yeah. I guess my next question, and going into communism, for me, this new legislation that's being announced by the Labor government, the Prime Minister has announced their anti-Semitism bill. against extremism, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Where do you sit on that? For me, I'll just give you what I think first.
Yeah.
I feel like this bill is not targeted at all at the problem.
No.
And it's coming after people like me, people like, salt of the earth Australians who want to have a say. And not only that, in the bill, 5 years imprisonment for speaking. If you cause fear in someone, what does that mean? That's so broad. And also not just for things that are going to be said in the future, but things that have been said in the past, you can go to jail for.
Yeah, it's so dystopian. The party's been very clear. Pauline's been very clear on this. We don't support it at all. It detracts from addressing the real issue. And the problem with the Labor Party is they don't want to address the real issue because they created the problem, right? And so they cannot turn around and say the people who've been leading into the country are the real problem, because that would have to be an about face. And the Liberal Party are now jumping up and song and dance about it, but they've been in it together, right? They've created this mess. The two of them have created this mess, and now it's time for them to get out of the way and give someone else a go to actually fix it. And like I said, if past actions are anything to go by in the future, Pauline's been very clear about her position. Hasn't changed for 30 years. They've called her every name under the sun, and now the chickens have come home to roost. The Australian people have said, we don't have a gutful, we don't want the protests, we don't want... we now live in a country where the most famous beach in Australia was a shooting ground for a level of hatred that no one has experienced. And the government, instead of dealing with that problem, has decided to punish responsible, law-abiding citizens who own firearms. They're going to punish people that want to be patriotic and speak up and have the Australian flag. Does that mean I have to pull my Australian flag down now at the front of my property? They don't want to address the problem because they are weak.
Yeah.
And they rely so heavily on these people to prop up the government, to prop up the economy, instead of actually fixing the problem. We've got an ever-declining birth rate. We need to address that. But it has to be from within. Let's work out ways that we can get our people to, young families that want to start a family. Like I've got a stepdaughter, she's 25, with her partner, bought a house, ready to go, luckily got in before everyone went crazy. They're thinking about whether do they have kids or not, because it's financially not possible or it's difficult. Let's fix those problems.
Yeah.
Get that happening, because we know our youth is our future. We shouldn't be importing our future. And that's essentially what we're doing. We are importing our future instead of deciding and determining what our future has to be in this country. It's not good.
And good point, because Poland is a country in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Who have put in policies that incentivize birth rates.
I saw that.
So they do tax-free for families who want to have children.
Yeah.
Do you think One Nation would support similar policies in the future where they would incentivize Australians, especially, natural-born Australians to have more babies and bring back some... Because
we have to do something, because we're going backwards, and the solution that the government and both governments are presenting is not working.
No.
You're bringing in a whole heap of people. Now, we were talking before about, people coming in from Italy, Greece, those sort of Eastern Bloc countries that are more assimilated, but their birth rates are declining as well. So it's not like there's a huge amount of people we can bring from there as well. So we have to build from within, and we have to put in tax structures that actually allow that and encourage those people to do what they're going to do. Otherwise, the government will keep saying, we're going backwards, we need to import people. And that's their get out of jail, I guess.
The whole world is suffering, especially the Western world is suffering. Like Greece just shut down 700 schools because the birth rates are declining so rapidly. 50 years, there might not even be Greeks anymore. That's how bad it is. This is the cradle of Western civilization. This is the place where, this is where democracy and all the great things we love so much have started from. Might not even be a thing soon. Yeah. So, it speaks to an audience larger than that. And going into that, right, this is another challenge I've got, because, my job with the Adelaide set is to watch the culture. And you see the things 4 in 10 young men now are right-wing extremists, right? And look, you have the rise of people like Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson with his own network and Candace Owens and all this stuff, right? Yeah. The young guys and girls are watching these guys. Yeah. And they do want, the American first, Australia first attitude. I guess how does One Nation balance that out without, because I guess the young people are going to demand Australia first only, no foreign interests, no foreign lobbies, no, none of this. How are you guys going to balance that out? Because obviously the nature of politics in this country is there's lobbyists. There are foreign lobbyists here that exist. And I guess One Nation's kryptonite, like any other political party's kryptonite, could be this foreign interest thing for the young people at least, and the new voters coming through, because that's the future, right? How are you guys going to deal with that? And what,
Well, I mean, when I hear Australia First, right, and I agree, I have my idea of what Australia First means, but people that are asking that, tell me what that means. What does that look like to you? Because if you're going to say, I want you to put me ahead of everybody else, I go, okay, but what do we get as a nation, right? Because you want the right, you have to have the responsibility. So the responsibility is you then continue on that and then push that forward to your next generation, and you start to undo all the things that we've done, right? So 100% Australia First. And like you said, there are a lot of lobbyists, okay? Now, in the building game, I have kind of, not lobbyists per se, but I have reps that come and try and sell me a product, right? Whatever that product is. Now, if that product is going to benefit that project at the time, then I'll look at it. But if there's no benefit to the project at the time, then I don't care how much money they throw at me or try and entice me to use it. It's of no benefit to me. So One Nation has always been of what is in the best interest of the Australian people. Pauline said it. It's never been any ambiguity about it. It's always been about what is in the best interest of the nation. And if it stacks up, then we look at it. If it doesn't stack up, no interest. Yep. We have to trade with other countries, right? That is the case. But it has to be a reciprocal trade. At the moment, I think we bend over backwards. I don't think we assert ourselves enough. Everybody lost their mind when Trump put in tariffs, and we got, I think, 10%. But everybody forgot that China literally decimated our lobsters and wine industry. No one said boo. There was no pushback. And once again, when Trump did that, people got upset with him. And I said to them, well, he was elected by the American people to do what's in the best interest of America. If that doesn't help us, then the question isn't, why is he doing it? The question needs to be, how is our government allowed us to be in a position that we are so weak that we can't push back? Strong leadership. You think about this, George. We have the land mass the size of America, 1/11th the population. We have more resources than we could ever hope for. And yet we have the cost of living is an issue. Hospitals are falling apart. The education system is not what it should be. A generation of kids can't buy housing. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel like the government doesn't really like us.
Yeah.
And we've allowed that to happen. Let's be honest, right? These people don't elect themselves. We have allowed this to happen. We voted ourselves into it, and I say to people, you can vote yourself out. I don't care what anybody says. I don't believe in the voting system and pencils or pens or whatever. Get out there and bloody vote. Get out there and talk to people. Engage. Convince them.
Yeah.
We can't keep doing what we're doing. You do the same, you're going to get the same.
We saw One Nation, recent polls, surging ahead. It's the first time since 1945. We've had another party come through like One Nation has. What does that mean for you, and what does that mean for One Nation in South Australia and Australia broadly? And what way can you take full advantage of this situation? Okay. I think the poll you're talking about, there was one where it came out where it was I think poll between, say, Labor and Liberal, and the Labor Party was 52-48. And then there was another poll done, and it was Labor and One Nation, and it was 50-50. Now, what that says to me is that people are going to start to think, or at least acknowledge, that there is that other option. You're not at a wedding with the two options, right? You've got another option. And that really, at a 50-50 chance, One Nation is the only party that's going to take it to the Labor Party. So a couple of things. I would say to all those disenfranchised Liberal people that are out there that are trying to fix the Liberal Party from within, I'm sorry, it's cooked. It's done. Jump on board and let's really become the party that is the opposition to the Labor Party, right? So all those, and I get phone calls every other day from disenfranchised Liberal people that didn't make pre-selection, good people, which I don't know why they don't make pre-selection, but they didn't make because they don't fit into that little narrative. And, just average people that are Liberal voters that have had a gutful. And I go, right, you're upset with the Liberal Party. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And I put the onus back on them. And more often than not, we're jumping on board. Right, be a member, come and volunteer, come to the branch meetings. Make One Nation the party that's going to represent you. Get engaged, get involved. Don't leave it up to other people.
right? I've seen so many podcasters, I was on Sam's show not long ago, and a lot of the comments like, oh, Sam, if you do this, we're going to support you. And, if you start a party, we're going to jump in. Don't be the person that pushes someone else. Get in there.
Yeah.
Get in the fight, So it's going to take a whole effort, right? This election is going to set up the party for every coming election, right? So it's so crucial that we actually send a message, not necessarily to Malinowskis, right? Because everybody thinks he's untouchable. You're not voting for or against Malinowskis. You're voting for or against the Labor Party. That is the message I say to people. You really want to let Albanese know, you really want to put him on the ropes, give us your first preference, get behind the party. We'll send a message not only to Liberal here, Labor Party here, but the Labor Party federally, because ultimately they're the ones that run the show, right?
Yep.
As good as Malinowskis might be, he still has to answer to his bosses in Canberra. So let's send them a message that South Australia is going to be the first state where we plant our flag and we say, this is our country, this is our nation, we're on with one nation.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is we're in a project state, and we need to completely reevaluate everything we think we know,
100%,
what we've known in the past, and move forward with a future option. I guess Turning Point's position is, look, we're here to support all the Conservative parties, and if one nation wants to surge ahead, then God bless you all, because that's what we need. We need someone to actually stand up. We need leaders to step in, and we need people to get out of their arena and step into the battlefield. And actually escape the bubble.
And all of my candidates, I can tell you, not one of them is a politician. We've got a couple of councillors up in the Northern Districts, we've got a deputy mayor. The rest of the people, and they're normal people too, but shop owners, business owners, truck drivers, work in a factory. I'm a builder,
Salt of the earth.
We are the mirror of what we represent.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we'll have a lot of, and I want to unite the right. Don't get me wrong. I want to get these people together. But at the same time, guys, we don't have time to be pissing and farting around on stuff. This train is moving. Jump on board. The more momentum we get coming into the election, then it's the next election. Then it's local council elections. Then it's the federal election. We have to campaign as hard, if not harder, than the Labor Party, because they're really good at it.
Yeah.
They're great at campaigning, terrible at running a country, terrible at running a state. Okay? And while we have Malinowskis there, who I've had a couple of interactions with him, I don't see the attraction. I see a lot of people falling over themselves. What I see is behind him, it's a mess. People are leaving their party. Ministers are leaving. It's not all smooth sailing, right? Yeah. And all these, gifts that he's giving out, 200 here and $1 million there and 3 million, whatever the amounts are, that is smoke and mirrors, because behind there's nothing. It's falling apart. Economically, the state's going backwards, even though they say we're doing well. We had to bail out our steelworks. We had to bail out our disability business in Bedford. We had to bail... I don't know what more you people need to know, that we are not in a good place.
Yeah.
We have the most expensive power in the country, while we have the highest concentration of uranium. We've got coal coming out of our backside in Australia. We should be rolling around in money, and yet we are going backwards at a rate of knots. We are in a managed decline, and I don't know what more I need to tell people other than, pull your head out of your backside and get on board with fixing this state.
Yeah. You're right there. And I'll turn to Europe, for example.
Yeah.
We're seeing a similar situation, because we look to Europe for the future, right?
Yeah.
These parties, independent parties that came out of nowhere, like the Nigel Farage parties.
The
party in Germany. And what happened in those countries was that the two uni parties combined eventually.
100%.
So do you see a future where Liberal and Labor connect to try and defeat one nation?
Do I see a future? They're already doing it now. They have done it for ages.
Yeah.
They are two wings of the same bird. And I can tell you now, nothing scares the Labor Party more than a strong one nation party, because we are actually going to be opposition, right? We will take it to them. Right now, they want a weak Liberal Party. As much as they give them crap, they love the fact that they're eating themselves alive. They love the disunity. They love that, because ultimately they're a lot easier people to deal with and push into whatever they need to do. Garnish their vote in the upper house, lower house, whatever. It's going to be a different... I can tell you now, it's going to be a different story. And they come looking for our vote. If it doesn't benefit the Australian people, it doesn't benefit the people of South Australia, they'll be told in no uncertain terms, not interested, no deal, fix the legislation, or even better, here's ours. I'll give you an example with the Liberal Party. This is a classic. I spoke probably a few weeks ago on radio, and I spoke about how both parties are talking about increasing bail laws or looking at bail laws and more police. And I basically said, enough with the bail. You screw up, you do the wrong thing and you continuously do the wrong thing and you're a danger to the community. The safety of the community has to come first. Therefore, less bail and more jail. Now, if we've got to build another jail, we'll build another jail. We're not messing around. And only a few days ago, I heard the Shadow Minister for Policing say, look, we're now going to be looking at mandatory sentencing and more jail. I'm glad that they've jumped on board with our policy. Too late. You've been in opposition, right? Where were you? The Labor Party's gotten away with what they can because the Liberal Party's been weak. And I've had a gutful. I'm tired of waiting for them to get their shit together.
Yeah.
And so that momentum now is like, hard line is what we're going to do. There's no more... We want to negotiate. We're negotiating from a point of strength. And as I said, we're going to be running in every election from now moving forward. There is no stopping this momentum. We're not going to let or back off an inch. Yeah. And I think that is what is going to put the fear of God into the Labor Party.
So in terms of challenges that you think One Nation will face, and I said one thing about foreign interests, like a lot of young people, like this is what I deal with my platform, right? I have a lot of people who now are like, oh, it's the Zionists, the Zionists this, the Zionists that. That's my biggest fight. And I try and remind my audience, guys, like, don't be a victim. Like, say it's true, right? Say it's true. We are under control by another group, right?
Yeah.
Say it is true. How does it serve you to be a victim to that group? And as a Christian man myself, I think there's going to be a level of self-responsibility to go, no, Christ is king. We are the ones in power. Yeah. Time to step up, be a man, and take back the power yourself. And if that looks like politics, if that looks like your work, if that looks like looking after your family, your friends, whatever it is, that's how you do it. Not sitting there complaining and every comment I get, oh, it's this, that, this, that. It's like, I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm sick of it.
It's very easy to be the victim, and it's a real easy thing to do as opposed to taking ownership of what you're going to do. I have plenty of reasons why I can play the victim card, from my bringing all the way through things I've experienced in my life. I choose not to let that define me. In fact, every morning, and I can't remember, it was a commentator that said this, and I'll never forget it. He said, get up in the morning like you're going to take on the world. If not, get that out of the way for those that do. So every morning I think, no matter how bad it's going to be, no matter what's going to happen, I have to go head on to it. Right? Because when my time comes, there's no, I wish I'd done that, or God, I could have done a little bit more of that. You've got to leave everything on the table every day. And you will find that when you get into that mindset, it's very easy to continue that mindset and things just fall into place. Yeah. The little 1%ers will take care of themselves. Like if you're sitting there and you're, say, in your mid-20s or 30s and you're thinking, oh, this war over there and that group is fighting that group and, I can't have any control of that. Yet you can't buy a house or you don't look like you have a future. I'm sorry, you're prioritising the wrong things. Yeah. So it's about refocusing on the things, your sphere of influence, and then expanding that sphere of influence to then incorporate your family, your friends, your business, your work, your education, and be positive in that, and then drive that. And then you'll find people along the way that will jump on board, and then they will feel that way, and that's how you build momentum. Surround yourself with people that are successful, that want to, do good things, and that will rub off on you no matter what you do. And that's sort of what I've done in life. I didn't have a university education. I've done a lot of different jobs. No matter what the job is, I've always looked at whoever was at the top of that job, and that's who I tried to get involved with to understand how did they get there, and then make myself get to that point, whether it's in business, family, whatever you do, you just constantly and I'll tell you now, running the campaign, running a business, being a local government, it's not easy to do all these things. Yeah. And it's 24 hours a day. But I know the end goal is worth it. And then I know that I'm finding more people to bring into the party to then go, right, let's build this up, so that we're not thinking the next year, the next 2 years or 5 years. We're thinking 10, 20, generationally. Now, generationally, One Nation wants to be that in that two-party preferred system we have, and then eventually be the party that's running the country. That is where I'm aiming for. That's the goal I have set, and I'm going to just keep chipping away till I get to that point. And that's what I ask of anybody that's around us.
And that's perfect. Look, it's a sporting mentality. It's kind of like the game mentality as well. Like, it's like a sport, right? and I want to get theologically, because I've got a lot of Christians that follow me, but also to my people who are not Christian.
Yeah.
When you're in a sporting field, there's opponents, and they might have a really good player. If you're on the other team, say you're a Christian on the other team, if I just sat there, I was, I'm not going to win, they're too strong, they're too powerful, then you've lost the game.
You've already lost before you started.
Get out in the field, play your game, move the ball around, have some fun. You might lose, you might win. Who cares? This is the sport of life. You've got one life to live.
I'm a big analogy person, and I like to reflect on things that have happened in the past. And I say this to a lot of my candidates when they're like, I'm in this really hard seat, really tough seat. And I said, okay, let's put everything into perspective. You're not a politician. You were just an average person doing an average job. The first battle you had was deciding to put your hand up and become a candidate, okay? You've done that. You've won that battle, because that was a battle, right? That's a battle you have within yourself. So you've won that battle. Then the next battle is going to be, right, I've got to get in front of people and speak, okay? Especially if you're it's not for everybody to speak in front of groups. So that is another battle. You've ticked that box, right? You've won that, okay? The next thing is going to be you go out there campaigning, right? Door to door, having confrontations with people. You win some, you lose some, but overall you're winning. There's another tick, okay? Then we get to election day. Right? Now, if you don't get elected, it doesn't matter. You don't forget all the wins you've had along the way, okay? I think the lady that ran against Peter Dutton had done it 4 or 5 times. On the 5th time she won, unseated the member for the opposition leader, unseated. Now, at any one of those 1, 2, 3, 4 times could have gone, this is too hard, and thrown it away. Had she not continued on, she got the win on the 5th, right? That's what I say to my candidates. This isn't about what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, the next hour, day, whatever. This is about now we are creating a movement moving forward. That movement has been there. Pauline's done all the foundational work. She's copped a lot of grief. Let's not forget that. She's gone to jail. Okay, so this is what I think. However hard my day might be, I've never been to jail and then come out and still wanted to do what I'm doing. You see what I mean? Let's put it in perspective. As hard as your day might seem, you didn't go to jail for your beliefs. After you went to jail, you came out and then you continued on. Yeah. That is a level of courage and determination and strength that is, I don't even know if I'd have that. I don't know if I would be able to be that person. I don't know. I hope I never have to go to jail, obviously, but that is and that's what I saw in the party, is that the person that started this party has almost made the ultimate sacrifice. Obviously, Charlie made the ultimate sacrifice, but has gone to that point where it could have been quite easy to throw the hands in the air and gone, nah, too hard, but no, continues on. And now, everything's coming into place and people are like, if only we'd listen. Can you imagine if we'd listened 30 years ago where this country would be?
Oh, it would be a powerhouse.
Can you imagine if we'd gone Australia first 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Immigration that suits the country, put Australians and Australians first 30 years ago, where we would be.
Imagine nuclear power stations everywhere, high-speed rail, pipes going down from Darwin.
We'd be like Dubai, it'd be rolling in money. But where are we? No. We've gone backwards, and we've gone backwards and backwards. It's only because we've started from such a prosperous point that being backwards here is still better than a lot of other countries. Yeah. But it's terrible to I remember what it was like when I was in my 20s and 30s, the freedom, the money, now it's hard.
Yeah.
Now it's hard.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, I've got a 17-year-old daughter. What is that going to look like for her? If it's hard like this, what's it going to be for her? Or even still, my future grandchildren, what is it going to be for them? And that's kind of what drives me to go, let's put the handbrake on, reverse and get back to where we were. But then even still, I don't even think we've even hit our strides, mate. I don't think Australia has really become the country it can be yet. Yeah, I'm really excited about where it can be. And I think One Nation is the party to take us there. So,
yeah, no, you make a good point. And then what I'm hearing is no matter how hard life is or how unfair it is, it's time to own that and move forward, because that's all you got, really.
Yep, that's it.
Otherwise, you fall into the trap of like the left, victim mindset, identity politics.
And they love it.
They love it. It becomes their whole personality. And then you're consumed by that, and that's all you do.
On the left, you believe you're the saviour. To be a saviour, you need victims.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas I don't believe anybody should be a victim. No matter what's happened to you in the past, don't let that define you. You are still in control. While you have breath and conscience, you have control of what you're doing and what direction you go in. And so what I want to do and what we want to do as a party is provide the ability for those people to become the better person that they can be, become the better Australian, the better South Australian. And we all benefit, right? Yeah. Everybody benefits when everybody's doing well. So we've got to provide the environment for those people to succeed. That's ultimately what we want to try and do.
So that, in the macro sense, that's great. But are there any like policies that you could see, like direct policies in a micro sense, straight away that you think if we implemented in South Australia, as say One Nation One, you guys become government?
Okay.
What are some things right now that people could go, oh, you know what, we want that?
We need to review the entire tax system, because tax systems, they're there for two reasons. Obviously, I believe two reasons. Number one is to provide money for the state to provide services and all the rest. But I believe they're a form of control. Okay? And some of these tax systems that we have, or some of these tax laws that we have, are so egregious and make no sense. Let's say payroll tax, for example. Now, I know the Liberal Party tried to get rid of it, and I get that. That's a huge hole in the budget. And then as soon as that was, they just dropped it. It's like, no, let's look at the whole tax system. So whatever taxes are in there that are making it harder for people to become more self-reliant and grow their business and be more prosperous, we need to look at, right? We need to address. Now, as I said, the first part of the tax code is really to give money to the state to provide services. I would ask the question, do you think we're getting good services for our money? You know, are we getting return on investment? I would say we're not. Whether it's any of the state government taxes, the levies, local councils, another one. Like, we're not getting return on investment. So we have to address what are the things where the black hole is. Where's the money going? Okay? We're not talking about taxing more. We want to tax less.
The tax reform, essentially.
Tax reform as a whole. We need to look at an overview of all the taxes, right? So we take away the things that are restrictive, okay? We take the shackles off the economy. We take the shackles off small business. I mean, payroll tax, like I said, is insane. You are charging people for employing. Like, that's the opposite of what you should be doing. But governments, you know, taxes to a government is like a nail, and when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Yeah.
So we've got to readdress the way we look at how we tax people and why we tax them, and say, well, if I tax less and the money's in the pocket of the business, the individual, the company, and it's going to benefit overall, then we do that. Less tax money means that we have to be more streamlined with our services and how we do that. I can guarantee you there are really good people in the public service. We need to find them, elevate them, and get rid of all those people that are actually dragging the public service back, because there'll be a lot of them as well. Yep. Same in local government. I've experienced good people in local government. I've experienced horrendous people in local government. So you need to disconnect the government, the bureaucracy, all that stuff, pull it apart, okay? And then pinpoint, go, we're going to get rid of that, we're going to get rid of that, we're going to increase that. We want to see return on investment. That is how we're going to fix this.
It's like a tax cleanse almost, like a detox.
And a lot of people say it's like a Doge, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's actually bigger than that. I think it's, you know, governments love to pass legislation, regulation. They love it. Why? Is it of benefit? Does it actually do something, or is it just provide another job for someone else to sit there and tick a box? And if your job is just to employ more people for what you do, but it doesn't actually benefit everybody, that's not what the government should be. So the government should shrink. Like, I'll be honest, there's small government, okay, more onus on the individual, more ability for the individual to succeed. That's all the government should do, is get out of the way of businesses. You know, I was speaking to someone from the Master Builders Association, and in the middle of a housing crisis, we've got builders going under. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So why are builders going under? Well, it's hard to become a builder. It's hard to, which is okay, but it's hard to run a business, insurances, you know, payroll tax, all the regulations, like, it's crazy. And so that all translate onto the building code per se. It translates onto housing, which is more expensive. So it's a self-feeding loop that does benefit anybody. It just pushes the house price up. We need to start bringing house prices down. So speaking to these guys, I go, right, give me policy that's going to make it easier for builders to build, okay? And then at the same time, what the government need to do in that situation is, we've released all this land, but it's not usable if it's not serviced. So we should be putting heaps of infrastructure in first, and then allowing that land to be developed if that needs to be. It shouldn't be prime agricultural land, by the way, because that's ridiculous. You can't feed yourself. It doesn't matter if you've got a house. We're importing food. It's ridiculous. So find parcels of land that aren't beneficial to farming and then make them developments, or allow for infill. But once again, the overriding problem has been created by mass migration. So let's look at a federal level. And our party's very clear about that, capping immigration and choosing the people we come into the country that actually benefit the country, you know?
Do you think a little bit of austerity is something that Australia needs to try and, like, do you think the economy needs to slow down a bit? You know, like, it all looks nice to have these massive economic numbers, but is there a time where we should just take a deep breath, slow down the economy and rebuild before it gets to the point where it's breaking and then it's too late?
I don't think the economy's booming.
Yeah.
Like, it's not.
Visually, it appears, right?
People need to look past and look at the reality of what's going on, right? We're building a new hospital, okay? That's going to be a capacity by the time it's built. It'll be over budget and at capacity. How does that make sense? You know? So infrastructure is a big thing that the governments could do. It's got to be measured and it's got to be done correctly, but it can't just be a free-for-all, because we will blow money out of fashion. We're going into debt already, you know, and I heard Tom Coots and Tonus talking about how it's okay to be in this much debt. You know, I'm pretty sure they would have said the same thing in Victoria, and that's a basket case.
And in Greece, Tom. And look what happened there, mate.
Greece, yeah, well, that's shocking. But I was only over there not long ago. Actually, I love the place. But yeah, I think it's going to be less government intervention and just get government back to doing what it should do. You know, the things that the private sector can't do, won't do, or shouldn't do. Okay? Let the private sector off the leash, get rid of the regulations that's stopping them, let business be business, and the government just get the hell out of the way. Yeah. You know, because we don't want the government to be the biggest employer of people. That's a really bad outcome. It never ends well. Greece, Argentina, it never ends well, right? But that's what the government want to do, because that's their driving force. They get bigger. Yeah. You know, we want to get government smaller and more efficient.
And that's for the benefit of the individual as well, because if you're not having to rely on the government for jobs, then you can rely on your creative spirit, you can rely on your individualistic spirit, you can rely on your, like, obviously turning point with Christians, right? Yeah. A lot of our audience Christians. You know, Christianity for me is a big important part of Australia, what made Australia great. You know, if you look back to the 50s, the 60s, Australia was predominantly Christian, right? Yeah. And as we've gone forward now, it's like 30, 20%, hardly anyone. There is a resurgence happening. Yeah. We're seeing it all across the world, even in China. Yeah. In places like Poland and places like Europe, all over the world, America. You know, it is a huge research, especially the young people. They want to feel purpose again. Yeah. Young men want to feel purpose again. Young women want to feel purpose again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a turn back to Christianity, there's a turn back to religions. I think, and that's fantastic. I love that. I think turn back to yourself, right? Get this fixed first. When that is strong and stable, and then however means that is, whether it's reading the Bible, whether it's engaging with community groups, whatever that is, make yourself a better person, take onus of who you are, responsibility for your actions, and the rights will come. And then if we all do that, the community, you know, the voter base is unstoppable. Yeah. They will dictate terms to the politicians, right? Because let's face it, we do have the power. Even though we're only allowed to use it once every 4 years, we have them by the short and curlies when you really think about it. You can imagine if everybody woke up on polling day and said, you know what, just for shits and giggles, I'm putting One Nation One. And we got up and we run the state. What do you think would happen the next day? All right? First of all, there'd be shock, okay? Yeah. But then the reality would set in that what we said we were going to do is get rid of all this bureaucratic level we would have to go in there and strip everything out. Pretty much like what happened with Trump. Yeah. Okay? And there was a lot of pushback, massive amount of pushback. So, and we know that's coming, right? Because we're not stupid. We know that while you have all your elected members, the bureaucracy are really the ones that
kind of pull the string. We saw it in COVID.
We saw that in COVID. We saw that across the board. So neither party wants to go after that bureaucracy because they feel comfortable. You know, how many times did you hear the Premier or one of the other ministers go, well, we've heard the advice, you know, and it's like, well, you take the advice, but then you seek advice elsewhere that doesn't necessarily follow what you want to do, and you make a value judgment. And that's what we would do. We listened across the board. You know, the algae bloom's a classic example, right? No one really knows what's going on. Not even the scientists. I think what's happened is now we have a politicisation of the science base
Yep.
and to push a narrative, but they don't have the answer. So they're kind of like just going around in circles. So we would say, right, one thing that I would like to see is we disconnect that from the government.
Yep.
I don't care what the answer is or why the problem happened, right? If it's the desal plant, we fix that problem.
Yep.
If it's X, we fix that problem. If it's that. But while we're worried to actually identify we have a problem, the problem remains.
Yep.
No one has yet been able to tell me, is this going to be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? So how do you fix something when you haven't even addressed what the problem is?
And worse than that, we found out recently for the inquiry that the Labor Party were told to not look into it until after the election. How
Why?
scandalous is that?
Why?
We know why. Because they know it's their fault and they don't want to admit to it. They've been told for years. They've known for years that this was an issue.
Okay. This is where I think, and I hate to say this, but sometimes the voting public is to blame as well. We have to acknowledge that our politicians are going to get it wrong and that they don't always have the answers.
Yeah.
We've created a situation where we believe that these people have all the answers, and when they don't, they'll have to come up with something because they're like deer in the lights. If they came out tomorrow and go, you know what? It was the DSL plant. We did the wrong thing. We've made a mistake. We acknowledge that. We're going to move it. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And that's how they're going to fix the problem. Us as a voting public should turn around and go, not happy that you lied to us, but you've acknowledged the problem and you're going to fix it.
Yeah,
let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay? But there's this level of distrust, right? No matter what happens, that creates a space for so many things to come into the mix. And yet no one can fix the problem because they're like, everybody's frozen and doesn't want to say anything. And
well, it goes down to the left. The left mentality, it's all about their looks and it's about being cool. And that's all they really care about.
Yeah.
It's an ego. It's a politics of ego. When you're more concerned about your own personal ego, like this Premier I feel like has been, he's a big crybaby, essentially. I'm sorry, he's a crybaby. When his ego is so large that he'd rather put his ego first, not the state, that's why we're seeing these problems occur.
Yeah.
And you're right. Politicians aren't gods. They're not the messiahs of this world. They're there to try and do their best.
Yeah.
They're going to get things wrong. Just like the pandemic. You know what? It'd be nice if previous government, it'd be nice if Marshall said, hey guys, I got some stuff wrong, even though I believe he did a better job than the other, like Dan Chris, for example. It'd be nice if you take ownership. And if, like JFK said, where the chips land, they fall. And that's the way it is, right?
Yeah.
So that's the same with politicians. It'd be nice. I guess my question leading into that is how, everyone says, once we get there, we're going to do this change. And then they get there and they don't. How does One Nation address when they do get to that? Say you guys smash it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys will. How are you going to get to that point where I'm sure other politicians have got to and go, you know what? Maybe the machine is too big. I've got myself in, the boots are too big.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that could be a problem for One Nation as well? That maybe the system itself is something?
Not if I have something to say about it.
No?
No, not a chance.
Yeah.
One thing that since I've been campaigning or since I've been part of the party, it's put me in contact with a lot of good people. And because I want to address the problem, come up with a solution, fix it, and move on. Very, very similar to like being a builder. You get a set of plans, you engage with the client, you get their vision, you deliver the product, and you move on. I don't build a house continuously forever because I know that is a project. It's just like that is a problem. Let's fix the problem and move on. I've been speaking to this lady, Lisa O'Malley. She has been advocating for Department of Corrections. She's looking after carers, kingship, foster care. I've spoken to her. What she's told me about what happens in that space is horrendous. I can't understand what benefit is there to have that not working properly. We're talking about protecting and looking after the most vulnerable kids. These are kids that no one wants. They're up for adoption, okay? And so she's been advocating for 20 years to try and fix this and still nothing changes. I don't understand. To me, it's like, okay, you've got the solutions. They make sense to me. Let's see how we can implement them and then actually fix that problem. And I'll tell you now, we fix that problem. There's a heap of other problems, but we're not addressing everything because we just keep going over and over. And I think what it is, George, this is what it is. There is a level of bureaucracy, a level of people that actually their livelihood depends on not fixing things.
Yep.
Right? So you need to go after them. If that's what is the problem, get rid of them, then the problem can be addressed. And I know moving on, there's always going to be little things, but overall, we addressed that issue. Let's move on to the next thing. So that is the sort of, I guess, the mentality we want to take in, right? I don't want to fix a problem half-assed, like I don't want to build a house half-assed because I'll get a call back. I'll have to go back and,
do touch-ups or whatever.
Touch-up, whatever.
Yeah.
When I hand over the client, and I say this to her, not a word of lie, I say this to the client, let's build the house so you never have to see me again. It's the same with government. Let's fix the problem so we don't have to worry about it ever again because there's always problems.
Yeah.
But while we don't fix the systemic problems of the state, they're only going to get worse. They become entrenched. Ramping is an example. Remember how we all said you got to vote for the Labor Party. The unions were good at this too, by the way. You got to vote for the Labor Party like your life depended on it. Okay, great. Anybody that voted, I'll tell you now, anybody that voted for the Labor Party on that premise and now votes for him again, I won't even say what I'm going to call them. Like, seriously? They've forgotten about it. Their idea of fixing the ramping problem is building more ramps, more ambulance stations. That doesn't fix the systemic problem that we have. We have within the hospital systems, we've got people that shouldn't be, homeless people, people with mental health problems. Let's build homeless shelters. Let's build mental health facilities that we can house these people, get them out of the hospital so that people that need the hospital can actually go in there, right? Why is that so hard?
Yeah.
I don't understand why it's so hard.
Can I ask you a controversial question?
Fire away.
Let's just say that the reason the Labor Party can't fix the ramping problem is because it's not a ramping problem, it's an mRNA injury problem.
Yeah.
Let's just say 95% of the population took this medical experimental genetic therapy and it's caused all these underlying health issues, autoimmune diseases, cancers, strokes. Let's just say it's hypothetical, right?
Yeah.
That's why they can't fix the ramping because it's not a hospital problem. It's just because we've all been part of this mad medical experiment. Okay. If that was true, right, say it is true in a hypothetical world and one nation was in power, would you guys how would you guys try and help that? Would you guys be upfront with the population like you just said about, the argument? This is the problem. We apologize. Let's figure out a solution. Yeah. That's kind of my feeling. I feel like no one could have fixed the ramping problem. Okay. So I'll tell you, and if that's the case, right? First of all, we didn't create the problem. Yeah. Pauline, our party's been very clear on that, right? But even if that was the problem, okay, and that was created by government, I wouldn't sit there and go, they did this and they did that, because it would already be out there anyway. Yeah. What I would do is go, how are we going to fix it, right? How do we fix this? Does it mean we need more hospitals? Do we need intervention? Do we need to work out how we can undo what's been done, right? Don't get caught up on the blame game, right? Because that detracts from fixing the problem. The blame game will happen anyway. The community will hold those people to account. That comes out. That's nothing no party does after that is going to make any difference. Those people will be blamed for eternity, right? I have to work out, right, okay, we've addressed the issue now. We know what the problem is. What is the solution, right? Like I said, more hospitals? Does it mean different therapies? Does it mean, opening our minds to doing things differently at a health level? Yeah. That is what I would focus on, right? So that's quite refreshing here because that's one of the issues I faced, during the bureaucracy of the pandemic. I had to face people like Nicholas Spiria. No qualifications in pandemic, and I had to face her on the media front. And that was my biggest battle because then they made me radioactive. Oh, you can't talk about this, George. Oh, George is the vaccine guy. It's like, no, I'm a man of science. I have a degree in science. Yeah. I studied mineral geoscience. I grew up, went to school of Petrovsky's sons. I know high-level academics all across the world. Yeah. We look at this as a scientist. There's no black and white in science. It's nuance. It's grey. Yeah. There's conversation to be had. And one thing I realized was that none of these bureaucrats wanted to take consequences. None of the politicians wanted to maybe make a mistake. It goes back to the Algae situation. It's all about ego. It's all about how do I save myself from having to take ownership and I think if one nation could somehow bring forth an energy of like, you know what, we're going to give it our best go. And if we mess up, we'll take ownership of it and we will deal with the consequences.
I've said that to people. I said, I don't have any experience in being a member of the Legislative Council, right? Nor did I have experience in being a counsellor, nor did I have any experience in being a builder. I learned how to do all these things. I've made mistakes along the way, but I've learned from my mistake. I've learned more from my mistakes than I have. Obviously, being in the LegCo is a little bit different because I'm kind of walking in with open eyes, okay? I've been around now politicians. I understand how the game works, so no issue there. But I want to be completely transparent, and to the point where people are going to go, fuck, do I really need to know everything he's doing? I've got no issue in telling people who I'm meeting with, got no issue in telling them what we spoke about. If you want to come to my office and talk about something, whatever it is, be prepared that I'm quite happy to talk to the people that pay my wages and say, I met with this person, we spoke about this, I don't really think it's a good idea. What do you think? Yeah. Okay? Or I've got this piece of legislation coming up, this is my take on it. As a basis for One Nation, it doesn't align with what our policies are, so I'm going to push back on it, you know? It's about selling to the people what you're doing and explaining to them, and then them taking the onus to actually get involved and go, okay, because I think for too long we've just gone, vote every 4 years and worry about it later. We'll worry in 4 years' time. Those days are over.
Yeah.
Right? And I say this to people because I haven't passed a budget yet in council, and I say to people, the standard you accept is you walk by is the standard you accept, right? So if you're going to accept that our rates have got to go up here, when I know they haven't done enough to actually fix things, then I'll go, I'm not going to vote on it. That's why I haven't voted. And there's been controversial things that I voted on or voted against that people get upset. And I explain my position why, because my underlying fact has always been to try and keep rates as low as possible, because I know we can only go as fast as slow as people in our community. So recently, I voted for shutting down the Horse Tram Authority, right? Which is an icon, okay? Now, people would think that that's harsh. What I find harsh is that our council or our community have to fund every single person that gets on there. We subsidise every single ticket. And the money that's been thrown at this thing has gone from $350,000 to $750,000 now because of the bloom. And I'm of the opinion this is a state thing. State should be funding this, okay? It shouldn't be up to the population of Victor Harbor, which, by the way, 40% are on fixed incomes or low incomes, to keep funding something that is losing money. It's going backwards. It's an iconic thing. I don't want to lose it. But if I have to make the decision and the hard choice between my community being able to pay their rent, put food on the table, pay their rates versus that, it's a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
And I can argue that every day of the week and no one will convince me otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
that makes sense. The
politicians have to make the tough calls. They're so scared of making the tough calls because they want to be friends with everybody. I'm interested in doing what is in the best interest of the state. And I know as a business owner, I know as being in this country for this period of time, that the public service, so the private sector, is the best way of spending or generating income. Let's give them, like I said, get those leashes off and let them go. On
that note, Carlos, I guess I'm going to give you the room here to say, okay, to those people who have been Labor or Liberal voters their whole life, we've got an election coming up. If you could have them all in front of you right now, say there's tens of thousands of them right in front of us,
yeah,
and they're thinking about One Nation, but they're slightly holding back, what would you tell them on why One Nation's the right choice for them, and why conservatism is the future, or whatever One Nation's policies are the future?
Look, I would say that nothing changes if nothing changes, and the change starts with them. On that day, that week, we've got a week or 2 weeks pre-polling. Get up in the morning when you're getting ready to vote and ask yourself, what I do now is going to affect tomorrow, next year, 4 years, the state, my kids, my family, my grandchildren. Is this something am I really honestly thinking that this is going to be in the benefit of our state? And if it is, vote the way you're going to vote. But if you actually think we are going in the wrong direction, as much as pretty as it may look on the outside, fundamentally the state is going in the wrong direction. The country is going in the wrong direction. Don't forget that. This election isn't just about South Australia. This is an election about the whole country, right? We are judging what the Labor Party are doing as a whole, okay? Because it's not in silo. Then if you're judging them and you think they're doing a good job, by all means, but you'll get what you get. If you want change and you really want to make a difference, you'll be voting One Nation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here and making some time for us and to chat to us. And guys, you heard it here first. This South Australian election is more important than you could think. It will change the trajectory of the entire country. There will be a domino effect. So it's up to you guys. I do my best to try and give you the best information, and it's great to have Carlos here. And yeah, if you have more questions, please reach out to him. Your social media account?
Yeah, social media, email. You can contact the party.
Yep.
I mean, it's just going crazy at the moment. We're bringing more people on board to help because the party is expanding at an exponential rate. Like our membership is blowing up, support for the party is blowing up. I think the underlying message is support for the country is blowing up. Support for what we believe Australia to be or what we want it to be, that's now taking precedent. That's what we're going to continue moving forward.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming here.
Thanks very much.
And guys, thank you again for tuning in. And yeah, we'll look forward to having Carlos back. We will. This is our first ever proper interview, so maybe moving forward we'll have some more interviews leading up to the election where we can ask some more, even get deeper into some questions, find out who Carlos truly is, find out what One Nation, other policies One Nation might want to present forward, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.